Hi, how you doing? I'm Rob Bergman here, CEO of Relevant Gold Corp, and I'm here today to give you guys a quick informational update on Relevant Gold, what we've been up to, and what we have plans for here in 2022. We're really excited, and you'll soon see why. Like any good junior explorer, we've got our cautionary statement disclaimer. Ultimately, there are forward-looking statements in here and things that may be estimates or speculation. And reality is these are very speculative investments in the junior market space, and we should see them as that. High risk, but typically can be high reward. Now, with this risk and speculative type investment, we focus on mitigating those risks wherever we can at Relevant Gold. And you'll see how we've done that as we continue through this presentation. But really, why should you be interested? Ultimately, we think we've got a very strong value proposition. We've got an incredible team with a proven track record of value creation, and we're focused on unlocking a potential mega district, specifically with Abitibi-like potential. Under that thesis and under this thought, we've established a very large land position, and we currently have multiple projects permitted and almost a dozen drill targets ready to test. Currently, the company is very tightly held by management and insiders, which we're proud of, and we've identified abundant visible gold at surface, as well as rock chip assays returning up to 5.4 ounces per ton gold. And all of this is in Wyoming, which is recently been jumped up to the second most favorable global mining policies on the Fraser Institute's Policy Perception Index in 2020. Taking a look at our capital structure, we have about 33.3 million shares issued, another 12.5 million warrants outstanding at a 13-cent strike price. And we, as I mentioned before, are very tightly held by management insiders, myself and co-founder Brian Lentz still owning the largest chunk of the company. So again, we're focused on unlocking a potential mega district. As we all know, the Abitibi gold belts is one of the most prolific gold belts in the world. It's produced over 250 million ounces in the last 100+ years. We've been developing a new model, a new economic gold endowment model in Wyoming that shows a strong connection to the Abitibi gold belts during the time of mineralization, roughly 2.65 billion years ago. And according to this model, we've been putting our boots on the ground and doing extensive reconnaissance work to continue to prove this model up, and ultimately have continued to find more and more evidence of Abitibi-like potential, really giving us this idea of a potential unexplored Abitibi gold belt. So at Relevant Gold, we have a lot of foundational principles, and one of those things is that minerals are the future, and we ultimately see ourselves as the next generation to solve this complex mineral resource issue that we face. And in the gold space, we are focused on unlocking a potential mega district, specifically by focusing on orogenic shear-hosted gold and silver discoveries. All of our properties are backed by an incredible amount of data and science. We've got a very strong team with a proven ability to execute and deep market knowledge. And we've really taken this new eyes on old rocks approach that really sets us apart. Ultimately, not just in our scientific thinking on how we look at Wyoming as a potential Abitibi-like district, but ultimately in the way we approach everything from environment, sustainability, governance, and exploration. And we really have an extensive background in exploration, permitting, and environmental mining compliance. So utilizing this new eyes on old rocks approach, this Abitibi thesis, we've generated 5 large district scale projects, all of which have near surface high grade gold, and again are in Wyoming, which has recently jumped to one of the most favorable mining policies globally. Our board of directors, we have an incredible leadership team. Dr. Peter McGaw, a lot of folks are very familiar with Dr. McGaw and all of his success in the industry. Co-founded Imidex Cascabel, largely influenced the way Brian and I have approached the industry and the market, and obviously led the discovery of the Juanicipio mine in Mexico, one of the world's richest silver deposits. Ron Parrott, Again, another well-known geologist and CEO in the mining space. He led the discovery of about 20 million ounces of gold throughout Nevada and has a significant amount of experience growing these junior mining companies through the discovery process. Sarah Weber, she's not to be overshadowed by some of the discovery artists that we have here. She is the CEO of C3 Alliance Corp and has a geology background, but really has a specialty focus in kind of ESG, community relations, indigenous relations, and developing these projects long term, as well as having a very strong network in the Canadian marketplace. And then you've got myself as the CEO and also a director, and Brian Lentz, the Relevant Gold co-founder and my co-founder in a number of businesses. He's our Chief Exploration Officer and also a director. Looking at the leadership team, Brian and myself, we've co-founded a number of businesses, private businesses mainly in the natural resource sector. We've been able to grow those through significant profits, which has actually helped us seed fund a lot of our ideas and opportunities over the years. In addition to us, we're joined by our CFO, Mahesh Leonaj. Mahesh has a long-standing experience in the natural resource sector in the Canadian markets and joins us on our management team. Sam Siebenaler, he came out of Newmont. He was at senior management levels at Newmont, and prior to that worked on the ore control geology side of things. So really has a unique understanding of how these things develop over time and how to maximize the value curve in production, and also what these majors really look for in an early stage opportunity. In addition, we've got Chris Jensen, who's our VP of Corporate Communications. Chris has an incredible background in government affairs, public relations, communications, marketing, and investor relations. And both Sam and Chris are military veterans, which we are proud of. As you can see, our experience is very widespread, predominantly with a lot of different majors in the industry, as well as some mid-tiers and minors, but really giving us a unique understanding of how these projects are developed through the discovery process and beyond into development and production eventually, and also what the majors look for in data sets and projects and properties as they review in search of tier 1 opportunities. In addition to our management team, we have an incredible technical advisory team. Dr. Dean Peterson, he is the chief geologist at Big Rock Exploration. He's got well over 30 years of economic geology experience. He did his PhD in the Abitibi gold belts specifically, and we're going to touch on that here in a little bit because it's pretty exciting. Dr. Kevin Chamberlain, he is out of the University of Wyoming, and he is a critical piece to our thesis. He is one of the peer-reviewed published authors that made this connection of Wyoming to the Superior Province during the time of mineralization, and his specialty is in specifically that age dating and tectonic reconstruction. In addition to that, we have Dr. Stephen Allard, who is a structural guru, and as anybody knows, that when you're looking for an orogenic shear-hosted style deposit, structure is of critical importance. So we're really happy to have such a smart structural geologist on the team who's been able to look at these types of deposits for the last 20 years and really understand the structural architecture of how to put these together. And last but certainly not least is Dr. Tom Campbell, who is the co-author of the Encyclopedia of Minerals, which I find incredible and fascinating. But in addition to that, he spent his career in orogenic gold systems just like this, working for Homestake Mine as their senior exploration geologist for many, many years, and then eventually Barrick, both at the Homestake Mine and at the Hemlo Camp in the Abitibi belts. So again, a lot of very, very specialized expertise specific to this type of mineralization style and deposit. So we have district scale assets, and what do we mean by district scale? A lot of groups talk about district scale, and we think it's really important to explain what we mean by that as it pertains to gold exploration. And again, we're focused on these orogenic shear-hosted style gold deposits. So when we start to look at what district scale means, we look at the deposits of the largest scale of this kind, and we start to understand what is the footprint of this deposit and what is the footprint of the development of this deposit, so that we're acquiring enough ground to really not only discover an opportunity of scale, but to have the ground we need to develop that as well. So according to that district scale model, we now have 5 district scale packages totaling over 42,000 acres of ground. Another foundational principle for us is Archie's rule. Ultimately, that is, to be economic, a deposit must have a recovered value of 2 times the all-in operating costs. And the way we do that in the gold space is focusing on grade. Grade is king, and high grade typically results in high margins. And ultimately, these orogenic shear-hosted style deposits are of the highest grades and the second most identified gold deposits exceeding 10 million ounces globally. So again, very high grade, very large opportunities, and that's what we are focused on. Our exploration strategy is very straightforward. We generate these district scale opportunities utilizing our new eyes on old rocks approach. Then we put our boots on the ground to do our technical reconnaissance and validate these targets for acquisition. Once acquired, we pump them right into our systematic exploration and build up our drill targets ultimately to the point where we can test and hopefully make some new discoveries. So really getting into the crux of it, Wyoming. Why Wyoming? Ultimately, we think that it could be an unexplored Abitibi gold belt. And when we start to look at that, we see this Abitibi connection. We see the shear-hosted gold mineralization throughout Wyoming was connected to the Abitibi belts of the Superior Province during gold endowment approximately 2.65 billion years ago, really opening up a lot of opportunity throughout the state of Wyoming. And when we start to look at these things, we see exactly what we'd expect. We have these through-going, deep-rooted Archean belts with the age relationships to the Abitibi. All along these belts, there's historical mining, but really hasn't been explored with modern technique. And just like the Abitibi, we don't just see orogenic shear-hosted gold, we also see VMS-style deposits, copper, base metals, uranium, a lot of these things that you would expect to see associated with a deep-rooted suture zone. In addition to that, we've been able to prove very high grades at surface, exceeding 5 ounces per ton in our rock chip sampling programs. And on top of that, we do see a streamlined permitting opportunity in Wyoming, as well as it being a very mining-friendly community and jurisdiction. And a lot of that's evidenced by the fact that we already have multiple permits in hand. So accordingly, we now have, like I said, 5 district-scale projects: the Lewiston, Golden Buffalo, Shield Clarissa, Windy Flats, and Bradley Peak. Again, we've done a significant amount of systematic exploration at Lewiston and Golden Buffalo to build those properties up and generate some really high value drilling targets. In addition to that, we've been able to permit and get some permits in hand so that we are ready to test those with the Truth Machine and get out there as soon as we can. We've also done detailed rock chip sampling, soil geochemistry surveys, various geophysics, ultimately confirming very large-scale shear zone hosted targets and visible coarse gold at surface in some of our projects. So this new thinking really opens up new opportunities. And what does that look like? Ultimately, as I said, the literature identified this connection at about 2.65 billion years ago, when you had your Wyoming province connected to your Superior Province. Now, this is your Superior Province, i.e. your Abitibi belts. And you see these kind of through-going black lines. Those are your major fault zones, your major suture zones. Ultimately, your path of least resistance for your mantle fluids to come up into a system. And all along those belts, you see these yellow boxes. The yellow boxes are representative of a +1 million ounce deposit. So really quickly, you can see and understand, like we all already know, the Abitibi is one of the most prolific districts in the world. Now, some of the historic literature, as I said, and referenced here, has identified this connection at that critical time when mineralization and deformation occurred. Now, since then, at 2.1 billion years, we had our major tectonic rifting where we had our Wyoming province shift and rotate to its present day position. So again, this is very well published and understood, this tectonic rifting that we saw at about 2.1 billion years, putting the Wyoming province where we currently see it. And accordingly, we have taken that outside looking in view to develop a criteria for Wyoming. If it does compare to the Abitibi gold belts, what do we really need to develop a project? Everything from socioeconomic factors, community factors, as well as the geologic factors. And really it checked all the boxes. We have the right age, the right supercontinent cycle. We also have open and permittable land in a great jurisdiction. We've got the right types of rocks. We've got these very large scale through-going suture zones and all different types of metallogenic deposits associated. Really the only thing we haven't seen in Wyoming is a lot of modern day exploration. So From here, we really put our boots on the ground and began testing this model, building off of this Abitibi extension thesis. Ultimately, our initial reconnaissance work continued to confirm the Abitibi gold criteria from a technical perspective, as well as anomalous golden pathfinders returned from every target, giving us this real proof of concept that we needed to really go after this and acquire a substantial amount of ground. So fast forward to today, and now we've got two major camps, our South Pass Lewiston camp and our Bradley Peak camp. These are located along what is known as the Oregon Trail structural belt that you can see going across the state of Wyoming. Now again, this green circle is actually from the literature. So this is from Chamberlain et al. 2006. And this is where you can start to understand this concept in these through-growing suture zones, oriented just like we would expect these Abitibi Wawa fault zones, and cross-cutting prolific rock types that are known to host orogenic and VMS-style deposits. And all along these trends, we've seen historic gold mining, but very little modern exploration. So focusing in on our flagship camp, the South Pass camp, we've got 4 of these district scale properties. Again, the Lewiston and Golden Buffalo have been systematically explored with multiple drill targets rising to the surface and multiple permits in hand to begin testing these. We've seen rock chip samples upwards of 2 ounces per ton at the Lewiston project and plus 5 ounces per ton at the Golden Buffalo project, as well as coarse visible gold at surface as well. And so again, really exciting, really continuing to expand on this this Abitibi scale thesis. So when we look at the Abitibi comparison, we look at the technical criteria on a more finite scale, and we start to peel back the onion layer. So here we're looking at our South Pass Lewiston district as it compares to some of these known mega deposits in the Abitibi belt. We've got this plus 4 million and plus 10 million ounce deposits here. And as you can see, the technical criteria really match up well. We have the right age rocks. We've got up to 5 ounces per ton at surface in our surface grades. And again, we have these gray wackies and mafic, ultramafic dikes, the right type of host rock. And in our case, we're just lucky enough to have it be called the Miner's Delight Formation. In addition, we see all the same types of mineralization style from disseminated stockwork and vein and veinlet associated with these shear zones, the right type of mineralogy and vector element geochemistry that we see in these major Abitibi deposits. And as well, we also have the detailed structural analog, which I'm actually going to touch on here next. So when we take a look at this here, we mentioned before that Dean Peterson, one of our technical advisors, had done his PhD dissertation in the Abitibi gold belts, and he specifically looked at these 3 camps, Timmins, Kirkland Lake, and Hemlow Camp, which had produced 110 million ounces when he did his research in the 90s. Now, he was able to discern that 99% of all of this gold could be attributed to 2 major factors, and this is incredible in geologic science. And ultimately, what those factors were 99% of the gold was found specifically within a 6 to 7 kilometer buffer of our major suture zones. So think of your Destor Porcupine Fault. Now, the gold deposits don't form in those major suture zones. They actually form in the structures coming off of those major suture zones, which are known as Rydell structures. And Rydell structures are split into 2 categories, a P or an R. And all that is a measure of the angle of obliqueness to your major shear zone. So he was able to identify that 98.86% of all that gold was specifically found in MAP P shears, not in R shears. So again, 99% of the gold was found in P shears within a 6 to 7 kilometer buffer of the major structure. So when we apply that to our South Pass camp, we can see these black lines. These are these deep-rooted suture zones, evidenced by the bounding greenstone rock on the exteriors here. Your blue is the Miner's Delight Formation, i.e. your favorable host rock. And this red dashed line is a 7 kilometer buffer to our major suture zones. So really quickly, you can see that relevant gold has tied up the vast opportunity of scale throughout this entire district. And in addition to that, we had Dean Peterson out mapping with our geologic team, and he was able to continue to confirm that our high-grade surface gold anomalies are associated specifically with Rydell P shears. Again, continuing to confirm this Abitibi thesis as we dig deeper. Taking a look now at our 2 flagship assets real quick, we've got the Lewiston asset, which is an shear hosted deposit. The Lewiston, again, we've got a shear corridor of about 10 kilometers with abundant P shears and plus 1 gram gold associated. We've developed multiple targets across this 14,000 acre property, and as you can see in the western section here, we haven't done as much systematic exploration, and we'll be continuing to chip away on that this year. Ultimately, from our exploration work to date, we've been able to generate 5 very high quality targets, drill target zones. Now, this is actually to give you some scale comparison. Those 2 ABITIBI deposits that we looked at in the table before, the plus 5 million ounce deposit and plus 10 million ounce deposit, these are their deposit footprints to scale. So real quickly, you can see what we truly mean about district scale opportunity. You could fit the footprint of any one of these deposits in any one of our drill target zones. So really exciting. The Golden Buffalo project, this is our other kind of critical project, and you can see the beautiful rolling landscape out there, but also the limited outcrop, which is kind of an interesting part of the story here for Golden Buffalo. It's a very high grade shear zone hosted opportunity. So again, as I mentioned, very high grade. We've been able to see abundant coarse visible gold at surface. You can see here produced out of the rock. There was a small miner that was producing this property in 2020, and they dug a 20-meter trench with this track hoe, and we're able to produce about 500 ounces of gold just from that trench and some metal detecting. So again, extremely high grade. It's right in the shear zone. You can see here, this is the trench. And so it's also already an active mine site and already permitted for that, and really open in every direction. Since we've been able to put our boots on the ground and do a lot of detailed exploration work and work up some incredible drill targets to get in here right away and start drilling this. Taking a look, again, very large scale property. We've done a lease with the previous mine owner, and that was really important to us because they also are a very critical community member and a very critical group of well-respected people in the community, and so that was really important to us because they seem to care a lot more about the long-term opportunity and the ability to be a part of that and be a part of the community engagement strategy. So since we've brought them onto the team to help with our community advisory committee as well as our operations on the ground. And as you can see, again, this very high-grade gold right out of the trench, out of the outcrop, produced in 2020 by them historically. Minimal exploration to date. All the gold was found with metal detecting in a backhoe, and ultimately there's expansive opportunity in every direction. This is where that historic mine site was. So in closing, we take this new eyes on old rocks approach, and doing so, we've developed this Abitibi extension thesis and generated multiple district scale orogenic high grade greenstone targets throughout Wyoming. We've got an incredible leadership team with a very, very deep market knowledge and experience in taking these early stage projects through the discovery process and beyond. Currently, we've got our 2 major district scale projects, Lewiston and Golden Buffalo, that are both teed up and ready for drilling, and we've got a pipeline of discovery opportunities that continue to fit this model moving forward. All of which, again, in Wyoming, which has recently jumped to the #2 spot on the Policy Perception Index in 2020 there by Fraser Institute. So ultimately, again, we're really focused on building up these opportunities for discovery and listing relevant gold in the near future on a recognized stock exchange in Canada, and ultimately congruently starting to drill our targets and really progressing towards making new discoveries. So with that, I'd say join us for the next big discovery. Thank you all very much for tuning in. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can see our investor relations contact here, Chris Jensen. Feel free to give him an email or a call, or contact one of us in the management team as well here at Relevant Gold. Thanks again. Bye.